Welcome to Critical DMG, a podcast about two best friends who might have grown up but never grew out of their love for the Game Boy. We will be playing and reviewing every North American title released on Nintendo's original handheld console. This is episode 11. I'm Tony, and we're going to talk about whether or not this game scores a bogey or just bogus.
I scored a lot of bogeys on this, or double and triple and whatever's above that, but I'm Jeff, and this week we're talking about golf, so we're going into another sports game. But before we do that, Tony, do you want to remind us what our quiz question is?
Sure. The quiz question from the Sokoban episode was about how there have been a lot of games in the Sokoban series, but that they all kind of have Sokoban in the title somewhere. So like Sokoban, Sokoban 2, Sokoban Revenge. But in North America, they didn't stick to that trend. So we were talking about Boxel last week, and there was also Boxy Boy on the TurboGrafx 16. But the question was, what was the Sokoban port on the Sega Genesis called? Jeff, did you know?
No idea.
I don't know how you would. It was given the very era-appropriate title of Shove It, the warehouse game.
All right, well, didn't even have box in the name, doesn't even count, not even the same game.
It's just the warehouse. It's the warehouse through line.
And Shove It, like you said, very time appropriate, but
very 90s.
With that, your quick opinion. Should someone play golf? Not real golf, but Game Boy golf.
Yes.
Okay. I have a feeling it's going to be a consistent theme that I say no to a lot more games than you do. But I would kind of go with no on this one. But we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end. Before we get into the mechanics, give us back of the box read. Why does Nintendo feel like we should play this game?
Golf, in just the biggest letters across the back. Birdie, bogey, par, or eagle. The score is up to you. Game Boy Golf is 18 holes of realistic links action. Each hole has tricky hazards, so strategy is a must. Read the wind direction, check the distance, select club length, adjust your swing, and keep your eye on the ball. Now drive it home. From twisting fairways and hungry sand traps to big water hazards and deceptive greens, Game Boy Golf is packed with challenge. For 1 or 2 players, this game pack for use with the Game Boy Compact video game system.
Ooh.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, not as maybe exciting as they've been with some other games, but pretty good description. And from my understanding, yeah, this is pretty much a direct port from Golf for the NES.
I saw that too, which came out quite a while before this, actually.
Yeah, so this was released 1990. We're still in our 90s phase.
Boy, are we.
It was released in Japan in 89, but the NES version was released in 84. So yeah, about 5-6 years before this one was. With that, I don't have a whole lot more background. I mean, it's golf. Do you have a whole lot of, or do you have anything else you want to say about the background of this game before we get into the mechanics?
Unfortunately, really the only background that I could find was more specific to the NES version. The Game Boy version didn't really have a whole lot about it. A lot of even just the development information and background and trivia type stuff, either directly related to the NES version or only related to this Game Boy version because it was part of the NES version's like description or whatever else.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I don't really have a whole lot about this one either. I could probably say a lot about the NES one just because that kept coming up, but I really don't have a whole lot of just specific background on golf. I'm pretty much ready to get into how the game plays.
All right, let's do it. Getting into the mechanics, we're going to do something slightly different this time, and that's going to be that I'm going to give a brief overview of the controls and the mechanics quickly before we talk about our personal experience with them. If you like this, format a little bit better, let us know. If you want us to go back to how the other episodes have been, also let us know. But quickly, you're playing golf, so the whole goal is to get the ball into the hole. You select your club, depending on how far you want your shot to go. You can hit the B button to change views, so you can kind of see the whole course. You can go press B again, see the green, and then press B again to go back to kind of your initial screen. You hit A, you start your shot, hit A again, and you'll backswing, I think if anyone has played golf, it's the pretty common swing indicator now, but you have a little arrow that goes to the left, you hit A again, it'll go back to the right, and you're trying to line it up in a little shot area. Pretty consistent with modern golf games, but that's how you select your backswing, how much power you're putting into the shot, and then select your accuracy by getting the arrow in the correct place. This game also had quite a bit of extra features. You could hook and slice your shot depending on where you stopped the downswing. You could hit a high ball if you want to get over trees or things like that. You could hit a low ball if you're trying to hit it under the wind, so have less wind, and you can even put backspin on it. So that's more or less the basics of the game. Tony, how did you like it? How long did you play a full round of 18 holes, or how was your experience?
I think I stopped at hole 16.
Oh, you only had 2 more.
Well, I played in 2 sessions.
Okay.
It did take longer than I think I would have expected, but the game is deceptively simple. The way that you control how you hit the ball, where you want the ball to go, all of the different selections for the club that you're going to use and everything else is actually pretty complex. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know golf, which I definitely don't, I've never played golf. All of the terms were new and I had to look up everything in the manual, so I'm glad that it was there and the manual was pretty descriptive about that. But if you don't know golf, it's really like a brick wall.
I could see that.
Trying to figure out what club is the right one to use at any given time, or to get a shot to go over the trees when you need it to, and stuff like that. When I played the first session, I did not look in the manual at all. Mm-hmm. So I was struggling very much. And I actually went the entire first session completely unaware that you could press the B button and view the course.
Oh.
So I thought the game was much, much more difficult than it actually is, because I was like, how do I know where to send the ball if I can't see where the hole is at? So
yeah, that would be rough.
Yeah, so when I read the manual and played the second time, I enjoyed it much more. That's why Cards on the Table, out of all of the sports games we've played so far, this was the one that I enjoyed the most.
I would agree with that. So I played 1 round through. I scored 123 on a par 72, so plus 51 score. I will say, I think golf, strangely, is probably one of my consistently favorite sports games genres. Mm-hmm. So I had a decent time. I knew or figured most of the controls out kind of just by having played other games and knowing almost always there's a way to look at the course as a whole, and kind of intuitively knew what the clubs should do because I've also played a decent amount of real life golf. So I had, a decent idea of that. I think it took me around 30 to 40 minutes to play a single 18 round hole.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I could have probably played a little bit quicker, but the thing that I kind of struggled with is that, so the manual gives you the yardage of each club. So, it'll tell you your 1 wood off the tee or whatever.
It's like optimal wind and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Is 240 yards. Mm-hmm. You don't have yardage at any point. If you push the B button, it shows you yardage to the pin, but it doesn't show you yardage on the course. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I found the courses to be laid out well enough that it kind of made sense. Off the tee, I want to aim kind of for this big fairway and stuff like that. But that was one kind of pain point that I had, is that you didn't really know the yardage of anything, and it didn't really tell you that.
I haven't played too many other golf games. Like, one of the main golf games I can think of that I have played, at least like in recent memory, is actually just a mini game in Super Monkey Ball 2 on the GameCube. It's just Monkey Ball golf. But like, I was expecting that if I started to do too poorly, it was just gonna like shut me out.
Oh yeah.
And I would have to start over again. So it was nice that even if I was like way over par, it just kind of kept letting you do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty fair as far as if you land a ball in the water, it starts you at like the closest edge. The trees are pretty obvious when they're going to stop your ball.
Yeah.
And the like way that the ball can be stopped and will roll based on like terrain and stuff, I think that it made sense how they tried to like depict it for you, but it still gives you some idea of like, okay, I can use this club to send the ball this far, and you know, if you're wrong, you just take the shot over again or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to have to do the entire course over a second time just because you came in like 10 over par or whatever.
Yeah, apparently if you go over 50 strokes, it'll just keep the number at 50. So at that point it's like, oh, I guess you're bad enough that you don't need we don't need to keep counting. But I did find that a little funny, mentioned in the manual. But yeah, it doesn't feel punishing.
No.
If you make a bad shot or something like that. And this is kind of where something I want to wrap back around to when we're going back over our should we play it or not. If I was trying to do really well, then I feel like it would feel more punishing. But just playing it felt fun. And yeah, if you hack one into the water, then you just go right next to the water, which a lot of the rules feel good compared to actual golf, right? Like that's kind of how actual golf works. And so I found it a little surprising how detailed it was in that regard. And with the mechanics, you could slice and hook and you could put backspin on it. So if you want to really, try to stop it right on the green or whatever, you had a lot of options to do that, which again surprised me for a game from 89.
I struggled to make any of those things happen. I am pretty sure that with more study of like the manual and how it describes like exactly how to do the different types of spins or shots, I could probably get a better handle on it. But while I was playing through, it never seemed to do what I wanted, whether I accounted for the wind direction. Because my understanding is that if you wanted to make the ball curve in a direction like left or right, you would stop the arrow on the power bar on its way back either further left or further right than the like optimal section.
Correct, yeah.
And it never seemed to do that. Even when I tried to play into the wind or whatever, either it doesn't curve as much as maybe I was expecting it to, or I was just getting it wrong. So I don't know if maybe I was thinking that the game was going to give more feedback or whatever the specialty shots and stuff were going to affect the ball more maybe, but I didn't seem to get anything to happen. The manual says that if you get if you put backspin on it or something, it should say so. It'll like tell you like backspin or whatever.
Yeah.
The only time I ever had anything like that happen was I got a super shot once.
Yeah.
And it careened right into a tree. So for all the good that did me.
Yeah. So I guess for the backspin, you do have to stop it in the dark area of the downswing. So you have to get it in kind of the timing correctly. I was able to kind of get those to work. And yeah, the hooks and the slices kind of confused me because I felt like they were on the wrong side of the indicator. I felt like they were reversed in my head, but I was able to kind of play around with that and get it to work decently well. Obviously, shooting a plus 51 is not, I didn't get it to work too well, but it felt, by the end of it, it felt like I had kind of gotten the hang of it a little bit. The low ball and the high ball, I may be more questionable, but
yeah.
With all the mechanics that they kind of jammed into it, I think it handled pretty well. And like I said, it felt smooth, and I was able to pick most of it up based on having played more recent games and things like that, which I think this game kind of set the trend for a lot of the more recent games. So it's kind of cool that, I was able to do that and kind of play it based on newer games that were potentially based off of it.
That was one thing that I kept seeing. This game, I didn't see a whole lot about, but the NES game that came out all those years earlier really did set the blueprint for most, if not all, like modern golfing games, because the NES version has a power bar and wind direction and all of those other things, and other golf games at the time didn't have that. So if you are playing more modern golf games and you are understanding the feel of the power bar and the backswing and the wind direction and everything else, they come from the earlier NES version, and I think they're pretty well represented here. The ball physics is pretty great. It travels well. It's affected by terrain and trees and the wind. It lands in the water fine. I'm not super keen on the switch from swinging to putting.
Okay.
That kind of threw me off the first time it happened, just because you're used to doing multiple inputs to get the ball to go when you're swinging at it versus only one when you're putting. So that was just kind of jarring. And then I also felt that it was a lot harder to sink the ball, even if you were using like a weaker swing and it was going slower, like up the thing. I don't know if that's just them trying to really play into like IRL golf, or if it was just like an obnoxious tendency for the game to just not let your ball to go in or whatever. But I was never able to sink a shot unless I was actually putting on the green and it was like zoomed in and it was only letting me putt using the putter. And that was it. Any other time, I never got the ball to go in the hole.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had a chip shot or something go in, which I'm happy with. I don't know if in real life I've ever had a chip shot go in. So I didn't find that too jarring. But now that you mention that, I do feel like a lot of golf games are, I almost feel like they assist with that. It's almost easier, but yeah, I don't know if it's just a skill issue on our side or if there is something in the game that makes it more difficult.
Oh, it probably is for me. I will fully admit that I was not doing my best. I was having fun. I enjoyed playing the game. I did not bounce off of this one like I did. Definitely not baseball. If I was going to go back to play tennis over again, I would definitely go back to play this one over again. Yeah,
I can agree with that. I don't think there's really much more that I wanted to talk about as far as mechanics go. There is a lot in the game, and hopefully, our explanations kind of made sense. But at the end of the day, you're playing golf, right? It's kind of not a whole lot past playing golf. But yeah, is there anything else you kind of wanted to hit on?
I've been taking paper notes. I was originally writing them as documents, but this is a little inside baseball, or I guess inside golf for everybody on Critical DMG. But I have paper notes now that I wrote down, so I'm just checking my notebook really fast. I liked that they offered a practice mode. I thought that was a pretty cute touch.
Yeah.
Like if you want to go back and do a single hole over and over to try and like improve your score so that when you go through another 18-hole round, you might have a better chance of not like cheesing it on that one specific spot. I think that was a really cute touch.
Yeah, I do think the training mode was good. Also, that you can save. So you can save mid round,
right,
and come back to it later, which again, I think kind of the first time we've seen a robust save system in some of the games we've been playing. So I guess that's also something notable to mention.
It's really like a quick save.
Yeah.
It's not like a save your file. I mean, there are save files, but it's really like a quick save because you save your game and then it boots you back out to the start menu and you can come back like through your save file or whatever. Yeah, it was good to see. Lots of good mechanics that came together in golf, which is really surprising actually compared to the other sports games we played.
Yeah, exactly.
It shows them up so bad.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that's all I have.
Yeah, that's it for me. I am ready for a break, and then we will talk about the aesthetic side of golf.
All right, ad break time.
Ad break time.
We know that a lot of people listen to podcasts just like ours to relax at bedtime. Here at Critical DMG, we do our best to ensure that the charm and good vibes are provided at maximum strength. You can tune into our show, tune out for the night, and leave us on while you get some sleep. With Critical DMG, the rest is easy.
In a world not too unlike our own, there are creatures known as pups, doll-like beings brought to life through magic. These pups used to live a life of peace and harmony in their forests and towns. This was shattered when the evil king Hocus Pocus arrived and began to use mysterious powers to control the poor pups, turning them into an army bent on world domination. As one of the only remaining pup knights with your own free will, it falls to you to take up sword and shield in defense of the once bustling city of Pup Town. Fight your way through stage after stage of enemies, taking them down in back and forth turn-based combat, gaining experience and coins as you go. Keep yourself upgraded and well-fed back at the tavern and other still inhabited places around the town square. The more of the enemy's army you're able to clear out from around Pup Town, the more its inhabitants will make themselves known to you, maybe even helping you continue to grow stronger, and better able to put an end to the evil king's reign of terror once and for all. So get going! There's an adorable cast of sprightly furries that needs your help. Will you be the savior of Pup Town? Pup Panic by Unicorp Entertainment is available now on itch.io for all Game Boy systems and emulators. And we're back. Back for our second 18 rounds, I guess. But this time
the back nine.
Oh, the back nine. There we go. We're back for the back nine. But this time we are talking about not just the greens, but the color green. Let's get into the aesthetics on golf. I'm going to start, which I think I have started most of the sections this way, which is funny because the title track is just one of the first things you notice in a lot of these games. And I thought the title track here was pretty charming.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was like amazing, but it was really like peppy and cute. And I'm glad that it was there.
Yeah. The music and everything, I don't remember it. But we've mentioned, or I've mentioned multiple times that to me, that's kind of a good thing, right? I don't expect everything to be just a banger like Castlevania. So if the music is good and it's not jarring to me, then that's a win to me.
Yeah, I think that it was pretty good all around. I completely agree. I don't really remember much of the actual like level. Well, I guess they're not levels, but most of the like course music.
Mm-hmm.
I did like that they change. I like that they change music from when you're swinging to when you're putting. I thought that was a nice touch.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I couldn't really like remember specifically anything about them. I'm probably glad for that, actually. This one is very much like totally inoffensive. I'm glad the music was there. It did not stick with me, but it, didn't distract me from the golf task at hand.
Yeah, exactly. It fit what it needed to do, and I think it was just very clean.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think most of the graphics and the stuff from this section, I think was like very well done. I did like the little sprites, and there were cutscenes. When you start your round, you kind of go to the clubhouse and you see your little guy walking out.
It's the Game Boy Club,
mm-hmm.
and it's Mario. Like they actually did a Mario inclusion here.
Yeah, but they don't call it. It's like a nice little nod to Mario. The box cover is pretty clearly Mario. The guy, your sprite, looks like Mario. He doesn't have the M on his hat, so maybe just a look-alike.
They couldn't fit it.
Yeah,
they couldn't fit it on the visor.
but yeah, it's a cute little sprite, a nice nod to Mario. Much better than some of the other games we've seen that have kind of tried to do the same thing.
For sure.
But then, yeah, they also don't really call it out. It's just, if you know, and if you don't, then it's just a cute little guy. And I liked it.
Speaking of graphic stuff that you liked or didn't like, I do want to know how readable you thought the course was overall. Not looking at the course from like the zoomed in map version, but just from like the bird's eye view that they give you as you're moving the ball around and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Were you at any time confused about maybe the water or the sand or the different textures of the grass areas of the course, or did you find it all pretty much simple to grasp at a glance?
I would say generally, I thought it was all the kind of screens were easy to understand what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I think your main screen, your shot screen,
Yeah.
I think it displayed all the information well. I think the course layout displayed most of the information well, and I think the greens, it made it pretty clear which way it was sloping and all of that. To your question specifically, there were times when I did not differentiate between a water hazard and like a bunker, like sand.
Same. Mm-hmm.
I knew that I didn't want my ball in them.
Yeah.
But there were definitely times where I hit my shot and then it landed in it and I was expecting it to be a water hazard, so like to redo the shot.
Right.
And then it ended up being sand. So that was one point where I guess maybe the visuals could have been a little bit better. Like I said, I knew very clearly I don't want to hit the ball into that. But,
sure, right.
But yeah, I did have that small issue with that.
Yeah, I think that the water and the sand were really some of the only areas that I didn't feel were depicted like in the best ways.
Mm-hmm.
I did appreciate that when you were putting, the area on the greens was given the little arrows to let you know what the slope was going to be. And I thought that that was really cute, actually. Instead, like, they could have just left it and made the mechanics like underneath and not really shown anything. But I liked that it was there because it would have been a lot more confusing to be like, why is my ball rolling downhill across this way for no reason? So
yeah,
that was cute. It was very much like, I'm sure there was some other like cute bespoke way maybe they could have gone about that, but it would have required more tiling and more colors and stuff. So
yeah,
for what it was, like here on the Game Boy, I think it was exactly what it needed to be.
And that is a very common thing that I've seen in a lot of the other games that I've played.
Oh, okay.
Most of them do have just arrows of some sort. Sometimes they'll have the arrows kind of like moving a little bit, or I guess like streaks, if that makes sense, on the greens that are moving, and depending on which way they're moving and all of that, you can kind of tell. Some of them are a little bit more quote unquote realistic, where they kind of just give you a topographical map. But the arrows is pretty common from what I've seen. So
okay.
It made immediate sense to me, and it checks out with a lot of other games that I've played.
Would the game be more or less improved if there was more like difference between the different areas on the course? So say for instance, if the front nine was more green, less trees, more water, whatever, and then the back nine was more trees, less open space, and maybe the tiles were a little different. Do you think that you would have liked that more? Or do you think that you appreciate that the course was pretty much homogeneous all the way through?
I think I liked the course as kind of as is.
Okay.
So I don't think it would have been improved. I liked that it was a cohesive course.
Okay.
You know, it kind of made sense on aesthetics and all of that as you were going through. And I did think they had a decent amount of diversity in the holes. So there were some holes that were almost entirely water hazards. You know,
Right.
there were some holes that were a lot more wooded and some holes that were less wooded. So I do think they kind of managed to get some of that variety in, but in a way that felt, cohesive to me. So I liked it. I thought it was good. I don't think it would have been worse if they did something like you're saying, but
Right.
I was pretty happy with the variety in the holes.
Okay, I was just curious because if you'll recall in the tennis episode, I had mentioned that the shortcomings of that game, I was wondering if would be improved as more later tennis games came out. And here, as much as I liked this game mechanically, especially because, like we said, this series of golf games sort of like set the blueprint for other ones to come afterward. So I'm expecting later golf games will probably be mechanically similar, but I would like to see more variety. Like for me, and like, not probably, I know this is just like a personal want, I guess, but I felt that I would have liked it more, or maybe in a future golf game, I would like more if they were shorter courses with more like variety to them, even if mechanically they aren't really different. Like I don't need them to be like lava pools or whatever instead of water, and that has some sort of mechanical bearing on the game or whatever. It was just one of those things where as I was going through it and recognizing that all of the courses kind of looked almost exactly the same, apart from how the obstacles were arranged on them, it just made me feel wanting for just a little bit, like the trees to be different, like a different set of sprites. They could have had this one tree and then mixed in either smaller trees up front, or I don't know. That's probably just my like sprite artist brain taking over about it.
Yeah,
but it felt a little like it was nice and readable, but it just felt a little repetitive.
I can't foresee that happening in any sort of, I guess I'll say, like, quote unquote real golf game.
Right, exactly.
Trying to mimic actual golf. You know, if we get into Mario Golf or something like that, where you're golfing in Bowser's Castle, then obviously lava pools and all of that is on the menu. But
no, we're not going to get to that one. That's a Game Boy Color exclusive.
Ooh, for this, I don't know if that would like break the immersion, you know, of the game, because you're supposed to be playing golf in kind of a cohesive golf course, but I'm definitely interested to see how, I guess, future games handle that. I do have one other note. So I did end up getting one birdie, so scored 1 under par. You know, I kind of did it by accident, but, you know, it happened. And there was like a fun little graphic. The guy kind of like cheered and it said birdie up there, and it was much better than when I hit a home run in baseball. And
nice.
You know,
which is a really low bar.
Very low bar, but still, I liked it. I was happy that they added that little bit for, you did well, so you get this little graphic, and it wasn't too long, it wasn't obnoxious or anything like that, and it was just like a fun little yay, and I thought that was good.
See, I would go back to try and get that. Like, I could see myself like going to try and get a birdie or even a hole-in-one on like the first hole if I like figure it out enough, because you know that those things are there. Yeah. Like the little fanfare and stuff like that. I like that as a motivator for an otherwise really short game anyway. The half hour, 40 minutes or so that you spend getting through it, especially once you are better at it and know what you're doing, I'm sure that time would go down. So having those little fanfares definitely would be something that's like, yeah, this makes me want to keep going and do a good job.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if it happens in the training mode. I guess that would be something that I could have looked at, but yeah, it would be kind of nice to go like just training mode on one of the par threes and try to get a hole in one or something like that.
Right. Even just in the regular mode, like practice, and then try it out in the regular mode and just, you know, aim for seeing what happens. I want to see the hole-in-one animation.
Yeah, exactly. But that was the last thing I had is generally, I felt everything was well done. I liked the sprites. I thought they were cute. I thought it was readable. I liked the little extra animation. I liked, you know, the clubhouse and everything like that. Very
characterful. For a game where you literally don't see your character, like, doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
The game itself has a lot of character in the music and the way everything is presented. There's not really a whole lot of sound in golf. It's actually pretty quiet apart from maybe some like splashes or thwacks, but like the music is underlining everything, and I could see this being a very like zen sort of experience. Just turn it on and play a few holes real quick, and then quick save out and get back to whatever else.
Yeah, I think that kind of segues into wrapping back to my immediate opinion. I said no,
Right.
but I've obviously spoken pretty highly of it.
Right.
I had a lot of fun with it, and I think if you want to interact with it casually, then go for it. If you want to really do well, I could see it being really frustrating. Getting kind of the mechanics just right. Some of the other mechanic things we've said with not having yard markers and things like that, I could see it getting really frustrating if you really wanted to do well on it. So like a game where you're just kind of tooling around with, I don't know if I would recommend someone to, actively pursue that sort of game.
Yeah, that's fair. I would say that if you are a fan of these types of games, and especially if you understand the approach of a lot of Game Boy games that you are going back to in the modern era, like a lot of these older games, when you are an adult who has X number of minutes to fit in whatever small hobby activity, you could do a lot worse than grabbing your Game Boy and playing a couple holes in golf.
That's fair.
It's definitely fun, especially in short bursts. And if you don't take it as seriously as, maybe as the developers wanted you to, as far as it being a realistic golf simulation, don't take it as seriously as all that. But yeah, I would still say I recommend it at the end. Not like a hard recommend, but definitely if someone asked me which of the Game Boy sports titles I would recommend at this point, I would definitely say this one over tennis or baseball.
So I had more fun playing this one than the other ones. Mm-hmm. I definitely wouldn't recommend baseball, but I could see this game getting old quicker because I feel like the actual gameplay is you're just hitting A to, select your backswing, and then it's like a timing game, if you will.
Yeah.
That's really all the gameplay is. So I feel like you could very easily learn each hole there's only 2 courses. So replayability, I feel, would go down pretty quickly once you kind of learn the holes. At that point, the gameplay is really just like, can I push A at the right time? And
sure.
So I could see potentially like tennis being more fun because it has a little bit more active gameplay. But I had more fun playing this for the first time through.
Yeah, I can get that. Like, because of the fact that tennis is just a CPU opponent at all times, you could probably get a little bit more out of that one, just from a diverse gameplay experience, whereas the golf one, the only thing that's going to change from hole to hole every time you come back to it is like the wind direction.
Yeah, which, maybe that's enough to add replayability, or maybe you just, if you like that sort of game where you can kind of solve it, then yeah.
That too. All right, well, I think that about does that.
Yep.
I'm ready for the quiz. Are you?
All right. Currently sitting at 74%, so doing all right. But do need to get all 3 correct to increase that percentage. So let's see if I can do that.
I believe in you. I have the utmost faith. Okay. Golf quiz. Question 1. As technical as this game might have been, it also had an unintentionally forgiving system in place as well. If you wanted to quit the game and return to the title screen immediately, you could press a combination of the A, B, start, and select buttons all at once. However, true or false, this is actually a recommended strategy if you mess up a shot, because restarting the game this way allows you to take your previous shot over again.
I'm going to say true if you don't let the shot finish. So if it's still kind of in the shot animation, I think if you hard reset, it would let you take the shot over again. So I'm going to say true.
It's true.
Yes.
While the manual for golf isn't as explicit about using this feature, which we had talked about is the quick saving, multiple tips or guides for the game mention using it to just reset if you don't like how a shot is going to turn out. Because like you said, as long as you don't let the shot actually like hit the ground and complete to the next position, you can just do the quick save and then load your file again and you'll be able to take your shot over again.
Cheesing games even back in 1990.
I know. All right. Ready for question 2?
Yes.
Okay. Thankfully, I never had to find this out for myself, but there is an upper limit to how many swings at the ball you're allowed to take before the game just stops keeping track. Once you reach
It's 50.
Let me finish the question. Once you reach this maximum number, golf no longer increases the count no matter how long it actually takes you to make the shot. What is the maximum limit? If you could say it now, it's 50. It was C, 50. At the 50 stroke limit, that's it. The game calls it quits. It literally doesn't matter how many times you try to hit the ball after that. It just stops the display at 50. I'm honestly not sure how you would ever even get that high without trying like purposely to just miss shots over and over again.
Yeah, I agree.
But sometimes these are just those things that you learn.
Yep. I need to be careful. You could have very easily just audibled that question, been like, what is that number +1? Oh.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to keep that in mind for next time. Be like, oh no, he guessed this one divided by 5. All right, fine. Smart guy. Ready for question 3?
Hopefully. If I don't get this right, I'll feel bad, but that's okay.
All right. The Game Boy entry in this Nintendo Sports Golf series of games is actually something of a midpoint in the timeline. As far as games about golf, sometimes featuring Mario, that aren't part of actual Mario Golf, the Game Boy version falls right about in the middle of a list that's sort of open to interpretation. But if you try to count up the versions on Nintendo's own arcade machines, plus console and computer versions, how many of them came out before this game did? A, 3, B, 6, C, 9, or D, 12? So how many golf games came out before Golf on the Game Boy?
I have absolutely no idea. And it's not 50, so I really don't know.
You can't just shout 50 this time. Nope. Your strategy's been foiled.
I'm going to go with B, because, I really have no idea on this one. B seems like a good middle number.
Final answer, B6?
Yes.
Okay, well, you're right. It's B.
Yes!
Depending on which versions you include, as well as whether or not you separate those versions released for the same systems, there's somewhere between 5 to 7 Nintendo golf games that came out before the one we played on the Game Boy.
Wow, that is so many.
Yeah, it started on the NES, but it also had Versus System arcade releases and ports to the PC-88 and the Famicom Disk System. So it started on the NES, but it went a lot of places before it ended up on the Game Boy.
Wow. They were really into golf, I guess.
Funnily enough, and this is just such a total tangent, but I'm stretching the episode out a little bit. I had read in a few different places that golf on the NES was like the ultimate dad game.
Oh, yeah?
Did you see that anywhere?
I didn't, but I could definitely see it.
Yeah.
I mean, golf has historically been kind of like, I guess stereotypically a dad sport. So
it was like kids back in the 80s would be like, oh yeah, my dad bought golf to play like after I was asleep, and that's how I got my dad to play my Nintendo or to give a damn about my Nintendo.
Yeah, it's a gateway game, getting them to
gateway golf.
Oh.
Okay, all right. So look at that, 3 for 3.
Yeah, 3 for 3. I am now up to 76%. So
wow.
Doing well.
I know, high C.
Yeah.
Okay, so audience question for this time. we have established that there have been a lot of games in the golf series of Nintendo sports titles. Some of them have featured Mario, some not so much, but they've all followed the same blueprint set by the original Golf on the NES back in the 1980s. The Game Boy game is a notably well-handled entry, but one of the favorites of this series released just after this one the very next year. Which game was it?
Ooh.
I know. Mystery.
We'll have to wait till next week to find out.
That's right. Speaking of...
Thanks for listening to Critical DMG. If you would like to support us further, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts and maybe recommend us to your friends or anyone else you know who might like the show. It really helps us out, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that brings us to an end of this episode on golf. Thanks everyone for being here. And yeah, join us next week where we go over Hyper Load Runner, the Labyrinth of Doom. So I have no idea what this game is about, but we'll figure it out for next week.
I only know Load Runner from old PC, so I'm curious. I think I know what this is, but we'll have to find out.
We'll have to find out.
We might be digging holes.
Hopefully. Whole dig sim. But join us next week.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.